role of director for Tracy.
Okay,
And
thank you.
let's introduce Tracy. Thank you so much. Sit. Okay. Yeah. I've been praying a lot. I've been asking Anfun to pray, and I realize that the Lord is here with us. And even as we open our hearts to hear what He has to say to us, I'm sure our sitting here for this day would be much exploration. It's an age for you to move out. It's an age for you to move free, and it's also an age to achieve. A psychiatrist says that this is the age when most of us would like to achieve as well as connect. But then, in his whole writing, he goes on to say, while we are trying to achieve a lot, we have lost connect. And even if we connect, we only have this small piece of device in our hand through which we try to connect. But for us, each of us, the innate calling, the innate ability is to achieve as well as connect. And that is part of, especially this age, when we want to move out, be free, and we want to sort of be our own selves. So today I start with a very familiar story that the Lord, and most of the songs that we sang in sort of, it goes deeply into what I wanted to share this morning. I start with a very familiar story shared by the Lord, but then even if it's familiar, I pray that its familiarity will not take away the essence of what the Lord wants to speak to us. So can we turn our Bibles, in case you have your Bibles, but otherwise I think it would be in your system, to Luke chapter 15, verses 11 to 24. I have asked that we only read through portions before we go into this. I hope you are aware of this story. How is this story usually called, titled? Yeah, the story of the... I want all of you to respond. I love to have you respond. Have you heard the story before? Yeah? And how has it been called? The story of the prodigal son? Yeah, probably by the end of this whole session, we should understand whether it was the story of the prodigal son per se. Yeah, so this story, as Jesus tells to some people who are very critical of him, is set up in an Eastern culture. Or even for us at Asian culture, it resonates a lot. And here is a son, can one of you, I'll read it for you. Then he said, a certain man had two sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of the goods fall to me. So he divided them to his family. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, journeyed to a far country, and there wasted his position with prodigal living. I mean, it's in an Eastern culture, as much as in many parts of Northeast, I believe this would be our culture, to not ask a portion of inheritance until the father decides to give it to us. And especially for me in Kerala, or in many, this inheritance is recorded as a will by our parents and given at a time, probably in Israel context or the Eastern context and our Asian context, after the passing of our parents. That is when the wealth is shared on to the next inheritor. But then, if the son is so bold enough and he doesn't want to stay with his father anymore, and he wants to break out, he wants to move far away, the only way he thought would be best is to move out, not with free hands. You know, he's wise enough to know that to go away with hands free would only cost him. And therefore, he is bold enough in many ways to say to his father, give me my inheritance. I want to move out. I don't have anything to do with it. And if I go and say that to my father, and if you go and say that to your dad, how would he respond? Yeah? How would they respond? Yes, some of you are smiling, some of you are very serious. Just cool down, relax. if I did go to my father, I would definitely have to be running away from him because I know what his response would be. You know. But here's a father who's very just and says, okay, if you don't want to live with me, and this is the way you think is freedom for you, and this is where you want to achieve your life forward, I wouldn't come in the way. But in an Eastern culture, to take your property and to move out is as good as saying, my father no more lives. He's as good as dead to me. And that's where we start off this story. Many times this is the story of many of us, that though we seem to be living in relation with our parents, sometimes it's as good as sometimes there's no relationship at all. And then what does the story say? No, don't forward, I'll just click it. And verse 13, and not many days after, the young son gathered all that he had, and he started to journey to a far off, quite far off. What does that far off refer to? To be far off is to be out of reach. To be far off is to be out of control. And to be far off in many ways is sometimes even not to let them know what's happening to you. I've had many friends in Delhi coming from different parts of the country and who have gone through a lot of struggle in life later. Friends who have studied in JNU as well. And then, after doing their initial studies when they couldn't make it in life, they have tried not to share anything with people back home. Because the distance that you have gone away from them you have gone away from them in many terms. And therefore, this son is sort of thinking, I don't want my parents to ever let them know that what is happening to me. So, with the power of money with you, the power of friends along with you, and the freedom, I think this is a deadly combination unless you are in the right mind to deal with situations. And here is a guy who has a lot of money, who has a lot of wealth, who is